Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm Jeff Hansen. As always, the show is brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com and by CougarSportsInsider.com. Thank you to those of you who already subscribed to the channel. If you haven't done so yet, we're striving to get to 3,000 subscribers before the season kicks off on September 2nd. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you have subscribed, steal your mom's phone, steal your husband's phone, your wife's phone, your kids' phones, your neighbor's phone. I don't care, and subscribe them to the channel. It's not a crime. I'm not asking you to log into their online banking and steal a bunch of money. I'm asking you to subscribe to the Daily Dose. It will only enhance their lives. You're really doing them a favor. So please subscribe to the channel. Do what you can to fuel the algorithm. It means the world to me. Thank you so much for your support. Big 12 Media Days ongoing. BYU was there yesterday, and Brett Yormark, he kind of got the day kicked off by welcoming BYU and the other new schools into the conference and giving a state of the conference, if you will. And as part of that, he talked about some of the things that have happened off the field for the Big 12 conference over the last year. Last year at Big 12 Media Days, Yormark made waves when he said that the Big 12 was open for business and the expansion hungry and craved college football world assumed that meant he was going to pillage the Pac-12 or somebody else and start adding schools to the conference. Yormark has since explained multiple times that he meant beyond expansion. He meant that the Big 12 itself was open to do business. And to reemphasize that this week, he listed off some of his accomplishments and I guess the conference's accomplishments off the field over the last year. So I just want to rattle through them really quickly. TV agreement with ESPN and Fox. He accelerated the Texas and Oklahoma withdrawal. A complete organizational redesign from the staff and everybody inside the Big 12 offices. He formed the Business Advisory Board. He announced the Big 12 Pro Day alongside the NFL. The Big 12 has hosted the first ever Big 12 Business Summit. They've launched Big 12 Mexico, which is a great opportunity for BYU, given the membership of the church there in Mexico, wherever the Big 12 decides to go. BYU should be able to have a pretty big presence there. Great opportunity for the Cougars. Back to the accomplishments. He brought commercial business in-house, championship enhancements through entertainment. The Big 12 gained nearly 100,000 new social followers, the second most Twitter and Instagram followers of any other conference. They will host their historic Rucker Park event next week, and Brett Yormark met with leaders on Capitol Hill as well. It's a pretty impressive resume when you consider it's been a year, and really the first few months of that, Yormark had to learn the industry, learn what his job was. That's a heck of a year for Brett Yormark. How he responds, what he does in year two, time will tell, but he's off to a really, really great start. The Big 12 is clearly open for business. That list of accomplishments and the things that Brett Yormark has done has created an excitement and an optimism about the future of the Big 12 that really didn't exist prior to his tenure as commissioner. Everybody had written the Big 12 off. We've talked about this a ton. Everybody wrote the Big 12 off as a conference that was just waiting to die. Brett Yormark came out, did some things, and now the future of the conference is as solidified as it's going to be. They're not the SEC or the Big 10, but they look like they are in prime position to be that third Power 5 conference. And everybody is optimistic. Not everybody except for our friends on the West Coast. Everybody else is optimistic about the future of the Big 12 conference. That's what initiatives can do for you. That's what these off-field accomplishments can do for you. So what has BYU done off the field over the last year that should give us some confidence going into our first season as fans into the Big 12 conference? And I think there's a lot of things. And so, stealing a page out of Brett Yormark's Media Days handbook, I want to list off some of Kalani Sitake and the BYU football program's accomplishments over the last year that should hopefully inspire confidence that, hey, BYU is going to be pretty okay in their first season in the Big 12 conference. Here we go. First one, he hired Jay Hill away from Weber State. And all that Jay Hill was a legendary coach in Ogden. I get it. It was the FCS ranks. I'm an Ogden guy. I work across the street from Weber State, and I can tell you nobody knew anything about Weber State football until Jay Hill got there. He turned that campus into a football school, and he took them to unprecedented levels of success. You may not know a ton about Jay Hill, but I promise you, you will. And this is a fantastic hire for Kalani Sitake. He assembled a coaching staff with bona fide Power 5 coaching experience. If we think about that, BYU didn't have that, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Elisa Tuiaki had been at Utah and at Oregon State. Ed Lamb, never. Kevin Clune, a couple of years. I mean, there was not. Preston Hadley, never. There was not bona fide Power 5 experience. Now, Justin Enna's been at the Power 5 ranks. Jay Hill's been at the Power 5 ranks. Sione Pua's been at the Power 5 ranks. There is real Power 5 experience. Kelly Papinga has been at the Power 5 ranks. There's real bona fide experience on this coaching staff, and we'll see that pay dividends as BYU nears the season, gets into the season this year. BYU added 55 new players to the roster. When you combine return missionaries, high school recruits, and transfers from junior colleges and from other four-year FBS schools, BYU has added 55 new players to the roster. That's a ton. They brought in a quarterback with Power 5 experience and a proven pedigree. No matter what you think of Keaton Slovis's NFL future, whether you think Keaton Slovis is going to be a legend at BYU or just okay, he is certainly somebody who comes in with experience and a track record that BYU did not have before. That's a big accomplishment for Kalani Sitake. They added a 1,000-yard rusher in Aiden Robbins. That's a big deal, and we're going to see that pay dividends as well. They added 3 four-star players out of the transfer portal and 2 four-star players from high school. BYU has never added 5 four-star players at one time in my memory. The top-end talent that will be joining the program is a lot. BYU hasn't had that level, that quantity of top-end talent joining at one time ever. That's a big deal for BYU, and that should give a lot of fans confidence in the team going forward. There were 3 players selected in the NFL draft, continuing a streak of consecutive years with players drafted. That's another big deal, and especially at the quarterback position, BYU has now had back-to-back quarterbacks drafted in Zach Wilson and Jaron Hall, and then finally revamped recruiting efforts with a new coaching staff and a new support staff in place. And we've talked about this on the Daily Dose before, but I've heard feedback from high school coaches, from players, from recruits. The early efforts of BYU's recruiting, it's paying off. We'll see if it pays off in commitments in this class of 2024. I'm confident it will pay off in commitments in 2025 and in the future, but it's clearly making a difference. Guys that had previously written BYU off entirely are now torn with their decisions because of the new efforts and the new recruiting strategy that is there at BYU. Look, if Brett Yormark can rattle off his accomplishments over the last year and we can feel optimistic about the future of the Big 12, I'm not sure why we can't do the same thing with Kalani Sitake. His program has had a heck of a year off the field. They've added talent. They've totally rebranded who they are with the Power 5 conference. They've got new coaches. They've got new schemes. They have a new philosophy and a new attitude. And if you listen to the players at media days and to the coaching staff, they seem to have a newfound confidence as well. I think their off-the-field accomplishments have proven to be a benefit for those inside the locker room. And for those of us outside the locker room, I think it's time to start to take those accomplishments to heart and maybe feel pretty good about the future. I think BYU's really going to surprise some people in 2023. Thank you so much for taking some time with us here at the Daily Dose today. Again, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and until next time, give them hell.